What's up, Diablo 4 players? So, big update coming out for Diablo 4 with Season 9 on July 15th. So, we have the patch notes right here. However, keep in mind, these patch notes do not take effect until July 15th. So, for starters, let's go over the buff to the Spiritborn. So, with the aspect of Pestilence, we get a small increase. If you're wondering what is that for, because, you know, sometimes I don't remember the exact name of the aspect, just like some of you guys might forget. But basically, it's all about Pestilence Swarm. Is this going to be viable? Probably not, honestly. Still locking with the Thorns, Balazan, Pants build. That's what you want to play with Spiritborn. The payback increased another 25, whatever. Razor Rings, I really wish this would be like a really top tier build, maybe eventually in the upcoming season, but 20%, it's a number, but is it really that big of a deal? I would say probably not, like as in is not gonna be overtaking the Thorns Spiritborn build. Anyways, on top of that, they fixed a couple bugs over here where like certain things where like the thing could pass through the entrance and get stuck. Basically just some quality of life issues where like Concussive Stomp didn't function properly. Then also like a cash quest reward couldn't be obtained, but basically just small minor bug fixes for certain quests that were kind of bugged. And then over here we have Battle Trance over here getting a buff for the Barbarians. So some Barbarian buffs, which is always welcomed because that class got absolutely destroyed in Season 9. However, with Battle Trance, this is all about Frenzy, which is kind of a weird item because the new stuff is all about Legend Strike. That is the new best build right now in this current season of Diablo, which is all about basic skills. Now, you are getting some ranks to Frenzy. You also get a bonus over here where it says increase Frenzy's maximum stacks by 2, and while maximum stacks, you get to deal increased damage over here. So they are giving us a little bit of a buff over here by another 30%. So they basically just doubled the stats. Is this going to make Frenzy good? I mean, it's a decent amount, and they've already buffed a lot of the basic skills, and everything with the Who's the Mountain God is all about basic skills anyways. So maybe try it out. I've always wanted this to be kind of a build, but the weird thing with this item is that like it increases your other skills by their attack speed. It should just be all funneled in, I feel like, to Frenzy. Maybe they can increase the ranks of it later down the line, who knows, but maybe try it out. I mean, 30% increased damage is basically another aspect here, so that's kind of cool. But I would save your Barbarian hype for the other skill here. So we also have a buff to Double Swing, which is kind of cool. So it goes from 66 to 85. So nice little buff over here, because keep in mind it hits twice, so it'll add up a little bit more. Now, the thing that I think a lot of people will be excited about is a HOTA buff. So I've always really liked Hammer of the Ancients, if you guys have played this before. It did kind of rely on Overpower, though, and Overpower has already been nerfed. But HOTA is getting its damage increased by 65%, so that is a W because, I mean, going from 110 to 175, that's a big chunky increase. So I would look at that. Rend, I'm not sure if there's any viable Rend build. Usually any bleed variant has always been about Flay. But as far as Rend goes, it got a nice little buff over there, and Upheaval. So I would say the ones to maybe consider if you are playing Barbarian is HOTA as well as Upheaval. Upheaval, just as a heads up, I want to give you guys a warning. Try out the skill before you start building into it. Upheaval has this really nasty windup where it has to go back and then it goes forward, and that is the reason why I think a lot of people may not want to actually run this. I'd probably just recommend playing HOTA, but if you're an Upheaval fan, that's a pretty sizable increase over there as well. Whirlwind, a small little increase, but Whirlwind has always been kind of a fan favorite, so I think people will try to mess around with it. And the Barb Carapace, honestly, if you're interested in a Thorns build, I would highly recommend you guys to check out the Spiritborn, as it's kind of the flavor of the month for Thorns, even though it's like Thorns plus Poison. Next up, Druid. This is a big surprise. So this is where it may shift up the meta. We could see Druid overtake and become actually the second best class in the game right now. So right now, as it stands, the top 3 classes in terms of pit leaderboard pushings, we have the Spiritborn number 1, and then it's the Hydra Sorc, and then it's the Druid. But now the Druid could definitely overtake the Hydra Sorc, again, if we don't count the pit 150 bug variant. But basically a nice little increase over here. Remember, it already does pretty good damage. It's already one of the top tier builds for Druid this season, and it's getting even stronger. There is, just as a heads up, another bug with the Druid with the Poison Splash, where sometimes you don't get the Poison Puddles to spawn in, which can actually make you fail certain bosses when you're doing the pit. So if they actually fix that bug and they give it the buff, eventually, I don't know, it's not noted right here, but that is a big issue with the pushing, because if you get to a map where it has some sort of like mountain terrain, it just doesn't work properly. So hopefully we can get that fixed, and then the Druid will pretty much secure the spot in number 2. It's basically, again, the bosses where it's a problem. Anyways, next up, the Great Staff of the Crone. Dude, I think Blizzard has been watching our videos, I've been talking about the Crone Staff. I love this thing. This is one of the coolest uniques in the game. So it is getting a change. So it says Claw is now a Storm skill, and it also casts Storm Strike at 350% of the normal damage. Now, Claw is also a Storm skill and casts Storm Strike. Claw and Storm Strike deal 100 to 250% increased damage. So the range is pretty terrible on this. I mean, this is just like very inconsistent from 100 to 250. That's also going to be affecting 2 skills now. So I would say it's probably overall numerically a buff. We'll wait and see what people figure out with it, but I think this is a cool change. So that is it for the Druid. Now, as far as Necromancer, they're giving the Hulking Monstrosity passive over here. Additional Golem damage sacrifice bonus got increased over here, so that's a win for the Necromancer. Nice little buff over there. And then the Rogue, you guys know I love the Rogue. We're actually showing off flurry gameplay. And it is actually getting a nice little buff here. So the Death Mask, it just gives you bonus damage to flurry, and it would go up to 50%. And I was telling Blizzard, I was like, you guys got to increase that. They bumped it to 70. I still felt like, I was like, yeah, we can get a little bit more in here. And the reason why is Death Trap is still the S tier, top tier build. And I want to say thank you so much, Blizzard, for just buffing up some of the newer stuff to be like kind of in line with what is, you know, there. Like right now, Spiritborn is really top tier because they got a new, like, you know, build, but Rogue didn't get a new build, so I'm really glad that they buffed up Flurry in 2 different areas here. So Flurry could actually be one of the top tier builds now. Now it's not going to be like, oh, you run Flurry and you're going to do Pit 100 one-shotting everything. It's still going to take some skill, but I think it's now a lot more viable to actually get this. So first off, the Death Mask, which is the helmet, it would increase Flurry's damage. You can go up to 100x damage, which is now much better. That's basically an extra aspect. And there's also the Breakneck Bandit aspect. So what this one does is actually for Flurry as well. So we got a nice little increase. It's a small one, but if we get another 10x damage plus another 30, I mean, that's 45x damage. That's math over there. It's a 10% increase in a 30, so it's 40x damage. That's almost 2 aspects right there, so that's going to be awesome. And I would say that the Rogue is looking a lot better for Flurry specifically, but I'd still say Death Trap is still going to be like a fan favorite because it just ramps up the damage way fast. Now for Sorc, what are we getting for changes here? So as far as it goes, Meteor is getting a little bit of a buff, and it was already like an okay-ish build. So is this going to be beating Hydra? I would say probably not, to be honest with you guys. There is a nice buff to Frozen Orbs. So there's 2. So one of them is the Frozen Orbit. Let's go ahead and go over that one, as well as Frozen Memories. So the Avalanche Key passive is what it works with, and then increases the damage to the vulnerable enemies by up to 75x, and now it's another 25. Again, I'm always going to be mentioning the highest numbers here, but there's also another buff if you guys are interested in playing it. Let's put it on the weapon here instead of like a... We could also technically put this on a 2-hander, but... This is Frozen Orb dealing 50% increased damage, and it explodes a additional time. Now, I think most people would probably put this, to be fair, like let's throw on a staff now, because more than likely you would, I want to throw this on a staff, but again, the reason why is because it gets increased times 2. So now we have 100% increased damage, and it explodes at additional time, and it is getting a bonus from 50% to 70. Now, it doesn't reflect here in the planner because, again, this update is not live yet. So basically, we're going and getting 140. So we have 140. So it's more like an additional 40x over here. So that's going to be nice. And if you do want to run the Frozen Memories, there is a combo with it. But again, if I was to say, is this going to make Frozen Orb meta? I would say I still would bet on Hydra right now, but at least if you want to play some other things, that's going to be cool. There's another nice set of updates here. So the Season of Sins, the Horadric, we're in Season 9, obviously, the Arcana will be picked up automatically. This is an issue where a lot of people wouldn't want to pick up the blue and yellow items, which I get it, that makes sense. You don't really want to pick those up. And then also Myriad Stone is going to grant you temporary attack speed, and it's going to stack additively along other sides of permanent attack speed. So I'm guessing that maybe this breaks the threshold. I know that certain things can break the threshold of attack speed. Like there's category 1, category 2, and then there's like certain exceptions for like movement speed where you can actually go beyond the 200% bonus, but I'm thinking that that's what it means. So if we can go to 230%, that's cool, but I think it has to like get the execution or something like that. Nonetheless, Nightmare Dungeons Delve Affix Horadric artifact channel time has been reduced over here, so that's going to be nice. And then additionally, the channel can no longer be interrupted by damage, so that's cool. And then in general over here, we have another change to the pit. So as long as you do a pit 85, I believe it's 3 stones, you get additional stones. So this is like a 50-50 if you're going to do the pit again. But if you're doing 85s pluses, that means that you can basically sustain, right? Because I believe it's 3 per enter. So that's going to be a cool thing. But I think that ideally we move away from going to the pit only for upgrading glyphs, or maybe make it easier so we can enjoy the other forms of content, just for some feedback for Blizzard. So that would be cool. They said completion for Legion events now include more salvage material. So I honestly don't know what that number is. It's saying more material. I mean, it could be 10% more. And does that mean I'm going to try to get a timer, go visit the websites? But there's lots of great tools like Mobalytics, as well as like Helltides, that will show you when the next Legion is. So maybe it will be worth it finally to go ahead and do these again. But honestly, like the world bosses, unless you're getting that tribute, you know, that will give you the Mythic, a lot of people just kind of aren't interested in like timing certain things and logging on. I think in general, for like these events to spawn in, and I honestly kind of want your guys' feedback on this. I hate this kind of stuff where it's like world boss in 2 hours, like every 4 hours I have like something to do. It just feels like mobile game-ish, and I think that in terms of a solid game, I think that gated events via like daily logins, I really don't like those. But you guys tell me how you feel about like timed events in video games. I don't mind if it's like they're doing a collab and for like a week they have some, like a whole week they have, but I'm talking about like daily logins every 10 minutes, 15. I don't know. It just, these timer things are just kind of like ridiculous to me, at least. Anyways, Forgotten Wisdom aspect for the Nightmare Dungeon has been adjusted. There was actually a more important one with like these orbs. Let me find, this says moats will no longer drop in Horadric Strongmoot. Each moat now grants more experience. Oh, is this like the little like orbs? I think that these are the orbs, right? Okay, the most important thing to take note with this is moats will split experience between party members instead of only granting experience to the party member who picks it up. That was a really strange thing that they even did that. I didn't even know that that's how it worked. I thought everyone got the XP. But this could be really interesting to see if people can get those Nightmare Dungeons to actually spawn them with the XP orbs, right? I believe that's what it is. Is it Arcane Knowledge or something like that? Basically, if you split, it would become kind of a problem because you would lose out on Obdusite and the XP, and then now, I guess, you just lose out on the Obdusite. But in general, I feel like one annoyance that maybe the Blizzard team can look at is when you are doing pits really fast, sometimes it's really difficult to pick up the Obdusite because your build is like zooming, and then like you don't want to go zoom and then go backwards in reverse and then go forward again. It just kind of makes the game feel like clunky. And I think maybe you can have a chest at the very end to open up, get all the Obdusite all at once, you know, kind of like a greater rift in Diablo, like all the rewards at the end, so we don't really slow down the person's progress, especially because you hear that legendary and you're like, oh, it's not a great raft, it's garbage. You know, it's that kind of stuff that kind of eventually gets the players to kind of feel like, it's a chore, right? And I don't think it should ever be a chore for a video game. Like, video games should be fun. Anyways, there's a bunch of different, like, issues with, like, the season journey and stuff. Hopefully Lilith is in here. Let me see if I can, I didn't actually check out every single patch note. Lilith is not here. Yeah, the Lilith is not here. There's a bunch of just like quality of life in terms of like bugs, and I'm not going to go over that because I feel like it's redundant and unnecessary. So that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the big patch notes. Lots and lots of stuff is changing here, but as far as what's shifting up the meta, I would say be on the lookout for HOTA Barbarian, be on the lookout for Pulverized Druid to go up another rank, but it's still pretty much the best build, and I'm excited the Crone's getting a buff, and then with Rogue, maybe we could also see it emerge. It's definitely going to go up several tiers here, probably like 4, 5 tiers if we are getting really lucky with it. But again, it's getting perfect aspects, but Death Mask is getting buffed, so that's good because that's the build that I currently am enjoying. You can see there's Death Trap also, which is currently the fan favorite, like best build for 3 seasons now, but now maybe Flurry. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell, and I'll update you guys more with more news with Diablo and other games, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. And let me know what you're most excited about too.